Hello everybody, thanks for joining us today, and on this episode of The Breakdown with Lido and Liberty. We're going to be discussing if we are are we interested in people?
Yeah, because something happened to us recently as I've been getting stuff together for the podcast and for, my studio and whatever. I spent a lot of time at guitar centers. And we went up and I bought a piece of equipment, kind of expensive equipment, bought it, and kind of mentioned different things. And, we bought some mic stands, and told the individual about us doing a podcast. And this recent time we just went in to get some more equipment there. He asked us about it.
It was really surprising because I was not expecting it at all. I mean, the last time we were there, of course, we did have a discussion with him about our podcast. But immediately he said, "Hey, weren't you guys about to do a podcast?" You're like, "Yeah." And then he says something to the effect of, "Hey, so how's that going?" And it was really interesting about it because, well, first of all, it's surprising because I had no idea that he even recognized us in the first place.
Right. I mean, it goes to show, do we pay attention? I mean, do we literally pay attention to people? I know like for me and the guys in 7-Eleven, I mean, they really, in the mornings, I used to stop in all the time, and I was kind of one, they call me the regular, they call you a regular when you're always going in. And so, like, they would always ask me about, well, how was your trip? How was that? How was this? Because we'd have conversations, and they pay attention. I mean, that's the big part of being interested in people, is paying attention. And I didn't you take some like connection classes to learn how to do that?
Yeah, actually, we had gone through these classes because we were getting a lot more people that were into the church that we were going to, and so they wanted us to be prepared to be able to start up conversations and to be able to communicate, to have a communication or to have a conversation with somebody. Because they didn't want us to be just sitting across from another person, just sitting at the table going, well, how about them Broncos? And not really know what to say to somebody else, and something that wasn't meaningful to the other person. Of course, I bring up the Broncos because, yeah, that's us. That's me. But.
So how did that go with you? I mean, were you able to implement it? Were you able to adapt it to yourself? Or was it just a class you took?
Well, to a certain degree, it was something that I could adapt. At the time, I was not wanting to talk to other people. I wasn't wanting to actually communicate with other people. So that part of it was good. But I think, honestly, that there was a lot of it that I did miss. And so going throughout from then till now, and I've learned a lot of different things. And that the actual class that I took, I was only focused on the academics. The academics of it was, okay, you need to, spark up a conversation and stay with saying, or trying to stay away from closed-ended questions. Like, how are you doing today? I mean, that could be, oh, I'm fine. And then that really just closes up the conversation. So it doesn't actually get the other person talking or doing something else. And instead of the academic part of it, I think we lose the investment part. So instead of actually listening and asking them the question, like, how are you doing, you say something to the effect that it's going to bring out another answer and not just a one-word answer to somebody else.
So your focus, do you think the focus is more on the question rather than the person?
No, it's definitely looking at the person as the...
No, but I mean, what I'm saying is, when you take a class like that, is there the possibility of just focusing more on the question than on the person itself?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, because you're looking at, okay, there's these types of questions that you can have. There's these types of questions that are open-ended. These ones are closed questions. These ones are this and that, and then just writing them down and saying, okay, well, next time I see somebody, I'm going to ask them this particular question. And it has nothing to do with the other person, but it's still, I mean, you're trying to communicate, but you don't have the full amount of the communication that you're looking at or that you're trying to find out and having a conversation with somebody.
Right. And the reason why I ask is because, you know, I didn't really take those classes, and for me, I didn't have the need for the classes because I'm just an outgoing person anyway, you know. And so for me, I've always been able to talk to people and share people and be around people. You know, I think with the classes, I kind of wonder, you know, sometimes are we talking to listen, or are we listening to talk? You know, and when I say that, I mean, are we just trying to go through the motions of, okay, here's my little checklist of questions, but really not interested in the answer? You know, in a sense, we're just worried about getting through the checklist of questions. Okay, I know about that person, but you really don't know the person.
Yep.
You know.
Yep. That's definitely something that that I have learned over the years that has been better. That if I'm going to ask a question, be ready actually to listen to the answer, and not say, well, I'm gonna sit here and I'm gonna listen to what I'm gonna say, or I'm listening so I can give an answer next, and so I can actually answer or respond with something. It's like if I was to say, let's just you and I, if I was to say to you, you know, I'm interested in writing a book, and you were back and you would say, oh, you know what, I've written a book too, and I know that I've written 2 books, I've written 3 books, and I used to do this and I used to do that, and I have this many things under my belt. And that's really not a way to actually engage the other person, because now you've made the other person feel like, well, why am I going to talk to you because you've done so much more? Now I feel inferior to you because you have just told me that all of these accolades that you have just done. And I think then, instead of the accolades that you have, yes, you may have those things, and I'm not just talking about books, but talking about, you know, if you're out there and you're speaking publicly, or you have this many friends that you come and you've done this many hospital visits, or you've done this many things, but in reality, how much is that actually being able to connect with the other person? Because I don't feel like I would be connected to you if that was something that you would say to me.
Okay.
I would feel inferior.
Well, I know when I first started out, I had a real bad habit of downloading my resume, so to say.
Oh yeah.
You know,
yeah.
I know that was a rough point, and I had to learn when to say something and when not to say something. I had to learn that, you know, you don't always have an answer.
Right.
You know, sometimes you grow together, in a sense, even though you kind of, you know, so what are you thinking about doing? You know, what are your thoughts? What are your next steps? What are your, you know, and kind of engage them in a sense of saying, well, this is what you should do. This is what you should do.
Right.
You know, because again, I think sometimes that's the listening to talk. You know, it's like, okay, you're saying something, now that opens my door, so now I'm going to step in, and I'm going to do this, and I'm going to talk about this, I'm going to talk about that.
Right.
When really, we should be talking to listen.
Right.
You know, like, hey, you know, so what are you doing? Oh, I'm thinking about writing a book. Okay, tell me more about that.
Right.
Give me more information about that. What steps have you tried to take? Have you wrote your first draft? Have you, I mean, really engage the person, as opposed to downloading your resume or saying, oh, this is what I've done, or this is what you should do, or this is what you shouldn't do. Because really, in that first initial meeting, you really don't know the person.
Right.
So you don't know if they can do what you've done.
Right.
You don't know how they're built.
Right.
You know, you don't know how they design and how they work. You know, and I've said it before, like, one of my producer friends, he produces a certain way, and I produced a certain way, and I had to find my way.
Right.
But that was one of the things. It was like, you know, without question and answer, you'll never find these things out. And again, that's being interested in the person. That's showing, okay, so what thoughts have you had? What abilities do you have? I mean, again, like, have you written your first draft?
Right.
I mean, the stuff like that's very important. It's not a matter of, again, like I did, like the mistakes I used to make early in my walk, you know, downloading my resume.
Right.
You know, well, I've got 15 CDs, or I've got this, or I was on this show, or I was on that show, or I was on this, you know, kind of downloading and letting people know, well, this is what I've done. Right. And exactly like you said, it's intimidating.
Yes. Yeah. Well, I think that also going back to the guy at Guitar Center, you know, when he was talking to us, and yes, of course, he asked, well, how's that going? And then his next follow-up question was, what was that about again? What is your podcast about again? I forgot what you said. And that's okay for him to ask that question, because honestly, I don't know if he really cared about what the question or what the answer was, but the fact was is that he showed an interest anyway. Even though he didn't, I mean, it wasn't enough that he would remember it, so it wasn't important enough for him to remember, but the fact was is that he still asked us about it and still showed a genuine interest in what we were talking about.
Yeah, I think those leading questions rather than the closed-end questions, right. It's the same, but it's different, because you want them to give you the information.
Right. Right.
You don't ask the questions so that you can give information.
Yes.
Well, how can I lead you? How can I do this? How can I do that for you? You lead them and figure out, okay, well, where are they at?
Right.
You know, so how can I really better help them?
Right.
You know, what process have you thought? What really get to know the person? I mean, that's showing investment.
Right.
You know, and I think that's the biggest thing.
Yeah.
I mean, that's big inside a conversation.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like I have a phrase that I say all the time: listen to the conversation inside the conversation.
Okay, what exactly does that mean?
Well, we've discussed this before. You know, we've kind of talked about it, where I talk about, you know, like certain people will say, you know, well, I love tacos. Okay, well, they love tacos.
Mm-hmm.
You know, or tacos are my favorite. You know, it's inflictions on words. You know, and again, it's like, okay, let's talk about the tacos.
Mm-hmm.
Let's talk about your love. Let's talk about the word you inflicted on.
Mm-hmm.
Or even, like, let's just say for me, you know, back in the day, I'm still, you know, back in the day, I wore a lot of Jeter equipment. You know, like I had the number 2 on my arm, you know, his shirts. I had a bunch of stuff. I had his jersey, you know, and he's a Yankee. And so, I mean, everybody knows I love the Yankees. You know, it's not a hidden thing. But a lot of people would just ask me, so how the Yankees are doing? Or, you know what, I saw in the Yankee game the other night. You know, and that's good. That's a good conversation starter.
Mm-hmm.
But let's get in depth. I mean, look at what I'm wearing. Look at what I'm rooting for. Look, you know, hey, so I saw Jeter play the other night. What did you think about that? Did you get to see him? No, I didn't get to see. See, then it opens up. Okay, they're not just like on surface level.
Right.
They want to go deeper, because they're actually taking an interest and taking the time to figure out, okay, what does he like?
Right.
Who does he like? You know, and again, that's that investment.
Yes.
You know, you're actually investing yourself into the other person by taking an interest in who they are, what they are.
Right.
You know, and again, that goes back to that listening to the conversation inside the conversation. You know.
Yeah. And you know, listening to that conversation and not actually listening to inject another of your personal something, like, oh wow, you know what, that's really great, I'm glad that you like Jeter. Guess what, I met so and so, and I met so and so, somebody else on a different team or whatever, on the same team or whatever, you know. But then all of a sudden, you know, you've no longer been as a peer with that other person. Now you're like, oh, well, this person's here and I'm here.
Right.
And just trying to keep the conversation. So if you're still level with the other person, then they still feel like they can have a communication with you, or they can have communication with you and have a good conversation with you. So I think that's pretty interesting on how you say that, you know, we gotta listen to the conversation within the conversation, because you're right. Because if we're just listening to talk, then we're not going to be able to actually have a conversation with somebody.
Yeah, everything will just be surface.
Mm-hmm. Or
it won't go deep.
Right, and it'll just be one-sided.
And
be you talking instead of me.
Well, and think about it. When you invest something, you're investing, you're burying, you're digging, you're going deep. You know, you're putting yourself inside of that thing.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's not just, oh, okay, so you like the Yankees, cool, that's cool.
Right.
You know, or I saw the Yankees get played the other day.
Right.
Oh, did you see Jeter hit that home run and really getting into it?
Right,
There's like, you know, and actually showing an excitement, like, like, bro, that's dope, bro. You know, like really hyping up the person, not hyping up ourselves.
Right.
You know, because again, that just shows that we're invested in ourselves.
Right.
And people see that, people know that and recognize that, and they're put off by it.
Yeah. Yeah, the other day, I was talking to a supervisor, and one of the things that she said to me is that one thing that we have to do with other people, even though we don't know them or we don't have a good built relationship with somebody, the thing is if they say something to you, you need to actually unpack it. You need to really and you need to go through it like it is an onion. Pull away each one of the pieces that they're talking about, like pull away the skin on there and say, oh, okay, well, where is this coming from? Or, you know, do you feel that, you know, that, like, okay, let's go with baseball as our analogy. Like, well, do you feel that Jeter should have retired when he did? Do you think that he should have retired when he did? How do you feel about that? Or then you can say, okay, then there's another feeling. There's another deeper thing. Like, well, how did you get interested in the Yankees? You live in Colorado, so how do you actually, or why do you like the Yankees? You know, would be able to, like, unpacking something and pulling stuff out of there instead of just saying, oh, well, yeah, okay, we like the Yankees, yay.
Yeah, it's crazy. Like it's funny. Like, especially with conflict. Like I've had to learn conflict resolution, and by doing that, I have to learn to be invested in the other person.
Okay.
While I'm being disrespected.
Okay.
While I'm being put down. While I'm being this. While I'm being that. You know, and like there's situations where I face people and they're outright putting me down. You know, to my face,
right.
and I have to sit there and just look at them and like, I wonder if you're having a bad day.
Yeah.
And really take an interest. Okay, so what's going on with them?
Right.
What's happening with them? Or even, you know, reflect on yourself. You know, did I do something to make you mad?
Right.
Let me evaluate. Let me think. Did I say something? Did I, you know, sometimes I ask them, did I say something to make you upset? No, you know, it's just having a bad day. Well, let's figure that out.
Right.
You know, again, taking an interest, investing yourself in that person.
Right.
You know, and really creating conflict resolution.
Right.
You know, and again, that's being invested in people. Are we invested in people? Because the reality of things is the only way we are going to bring any positive change to anybody is being invested in that person.
That's true.
Not being invested in our own endeavors or our own interests, but being invested in their interest.
Right.
And that helps them be better people.
Right. And that helping, once you get to that place where you can actually be invested in with the other person, then you can get the deeper issue that may be there. Like you said, you know, well, did something happen? And was your day bad? Did you wake up, you know, did you wake up sick? You know, or something else that could have brought on that disrespect, like you were talking about, and what else could have been there, instead of just assuming that this person's really mean, and that this person is really, you know, a person that just wants to disrespect everybody, or has no respect for you, or, you know, like you said about them just going out and actually being disrespectful to you. Which, I mean, there could be, yeah, they could have that part of them, but then again, there could be something else that's deeper than that.
Well, yeah, exactly. I mean, you don't know what kind of trauma a person has.
Oh, that's true.
You know,
that's true.
so you don't know what's going on. You don't know, and I hate this word. I really hate the word. But you don't know that maybe something you said triggered something inside of them,
right,
that made them treat you possibly like the person in their past, or somebody that disrespected them that had nothing to do with you.
Right.
And again, we can make it about us if we're not invested in people.
Right.
You know, we can think, well, you're just being a jerk to me. No, somebody was probably a jerk to them, and when you said that, it brought that up.
Right.
And they're in defense mode. They're in protect mode. And so when we're in protect mode, what do? We push back.
Right.
You know, and whether that person deserves it or not, they're gonna feel it. They're gonna hit it. They're gonna get it. And again, by being invested in that person,
right,
we can better be a vehicle of resolution.
Yes.
Of restoration, so to say. I love that word, restoration.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, that's for me. That's what we should be doing. You know, that's what our focus should be. You know, and so, you know, I really feel that we really need to ask ourselves, are we invested in people?
I think I like the way that you said that too, is not just I'm going to add something to it, and using your words still, and not just saying, are we invested in people, and what is our actual goal? What is the actual goal of the conversation, or getting to know this other person? Is our is our goal to fix their problem, or is it to help them be restored into what God has for them? Is that restoration? So what is our goal? Is it to get to know them, or is our ultimate goal to bring that restoration to them? And of course, it's not going to be us that does it, but we are a vessel that can actually help a person to see something differently, and to see them to see something else, or to see it a different way than what they had been looking at it before.
Or even the vehicle to help them see themselves in a better light.
Yeah.
You know, because some of us, because of trauma, because of things, and because of life, we don't have a very good idea or belief in ourselves. So again, that investment is very, very, very important.
Yeah.
You know, it's just not a matter of just asking random questions. It's not a matter of mastering communication. It's actually being interested and investing yourself in that person.
Right.
Because if you don't, then there's that possibility of causing more damage.
Oh yeah, that's definitely true. And
so,
not wanting to, or not paying attention to what you're saying too, can actually, like you said, be the cause of more damage, which is not what we want to. When we're trying to build a relationship with somebody, or building somebody else up, or just having a conversation with somebody, it's never to treat them as though we want to bring them back down. We want to help them to move forward.
Exactly. That should be our focus.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, that's all we got for this episode. Kind of went quick there. Again, like I say, I'm really going to push this. It's probably going to get redundant. It's probably going to get repetitious. Subscribe, comment, and share.
Thanks everybody for coming and listening to the breakdown with Lito and Liberty.
Be blessed, y'all.
Be blessed.